day it is. We were having a good time at this table this morning. A little bit late getting on. I apologize. No, I don't, because the Lord moved this morning. I got a specific word this morning for myself. I got a specific word for Brooke this morning. I got a specific word for the Bible study this morning, so I don't apologize. I was a little bit late. Wow. God is so good. He's so good. We're so blessed. We're so blessed. Numbers chapter 6 and 7. I'm having to remind myself as I read that it's a sacrifice to read, but it has to be a pleasing aroma to the Lord. If I murmur and complain about Numbers, it's not a pleasing aroma, and it's not accomplishing anything. That's how my morning started out, early, when I read early this morning, Numbers chapter 6 and 7. And over and over and over again it says, this is the ritual law for the Nazarites. They will, let me just read it to you. Okay. I'm on verse 13. This is the ritual law for Nazarites. At the conclusion of their time of separation, they must each go to the entrance of the tabernacle and offer their sacrifices to the Lord. A 1-year-old male lamb without defect for a burnt offering, a 1-year-old female lamb without defect for a sin offering, a ram without defect for a peace offering, a basket of bread without yeast, choices of flour mixed with olive oil, and wafers spread with olive oil, along with the prescribed grain offerings and liquid offerings. The priest will present these offerings before the Lord, first the sin offering, and then the burnt offering, then the ram for the peace offering, along with a basket of bread made without yeast. The priest must also present the prescribed grain offering and a liquid offering to the Lord. Then it goes on, and it goes on, and it goes on. This ritual of the Nazarites, verse 21, who vow to bring these offerings to the Lord, they may also bring additional offerings if they can afford it. And thus it begins for me this morning. And they must be careful to do whatever they vowed when they set themselves apart as the Nazarites. Then the Lord said to Moses, tell Aaron and his sons to bless the people of Israel with this special blessing. May the Lord bless you and protect you. May the Lord smile on you and be gracious to you. May the Lord show you his favor and give you his peace. So that's a result of. Now I'm going to skip over to chapter 7, verse 12. On the first day, this person presented his offering, which was his offering consisted of a silver platter weighing 3 1/4 pounds and a silver basin weighing 1 3/4 pounds, as measured by the weight of the sanctuary shekel. They were both filled with grain offerings of choice flour, moistened with olive oil. He also brought a gold container weighing 4 ounces, which was filled with incense. He brought a young bull, a ram, and a 4-year-old male for a burnt offering, and a male goat for a sin offering. For a peace offering, he brought 2 bulls, 5 rams, 2 and 5 is now 7. We're up to 17. 5 male goats, 22, and 5 1-year-old male lambs, 27. This was the offering brought by this person. And there's 1 of those. There's 2 of those. How many? There's 12 of those. Thank you, Tom.
Probably the Levites probably did.
Oh, that's exactly right. The Levites did not. So there's 11 of these. 11 of these that on March the 6th, 2018, we get to read about and be thrilled about, right? Because if we're making the sacrifice to read and we're murmuring and complaining, it is not a pleasant aroma to the Lord. Now, understand we're under grace. It's not what we have to do. But if we choose to do so and we don't have the right attitude about it, then it's just not going to benefit us. Okay, so I'm reading this. So I read about the blessing. May the Lord bless you and protect you. May the Lord smile on you and be gracious to you. May the Lord show you his favor and give you his peace. That blessing right there was worth all the sacrifices they had to bring. His peace for us is worth any sacrifice we have to make, even keeping our mouth shut, even soaking in the tub and recentering. His peace. When we are in his peace, we know all is right with the world. Everything is as it should be right now because we have his peace. But this is where God took me this morning. What did it cost them? What did it cost them? So I started thinking, how many did I just say? 27? Did I count 27? My word. Wow. Back in the day with no electricity, no running water, none of the luxuries. They didn't have a tractor and a plow. They didn't have air guns to put the nails in to build their barns. You get what I'm saying? For them to have this much to bring as an offering, what did he require? We've been reading. He required the firstborn and the first tenth and the first fruits, right? So then instead of thinking, oh, wow, look at it all, think about how wealthy they were. At one point it said that they brought how many wagons? It was towards the end.
It was
3 wagons full. They brought 3 wagons full, and
one had 3 pounds of gold.
3 pounds of gold. It just, this morning there's a page and a half here, a full page here, a full page here, a full page here, and a half a page here of reading of the Old Testament just today. Just today. That's more than we normally ever have. And, okay, so Lord, help me speak this. So in the beginning, it was all about my attitude towards reading the mundane, because 11 times we get to read. His offering, I'm on a whole different page. His offering consisted of a silver platter weighing 3 1/4 pounds and a silver basin weighing 1 3/4 pounds, as measured by the weight of sanctuary shekel. These were both filled with grain offering. Have you heard this before? How about this one over here? His offering consisted of a silver platter weighing 3 1/4 pounds and a silver basin weighing 1. Have you heard that before? Well, let's look at this one. His offering consisted of a silver platter weighing 3 1/4 pounds, 3 1/4 pounds, and the silver basin weighing 1. You get my message? So first it was, okay, Elizabeth, okay, breathe. I want you to read this. You want to read this because you're mine. And then it was, that's a lot. And then and then he put me in their place. That's what they had to do. How much work was it to bring how many rams and 5 rams and how many goats, a male goat, 2 bulls, 5 rams, 5 male goats, 5 1-year-old male lambs, just to get it rounded up to bring it to the temple. Without defects. No defects. How much work was it? And I think it's work to wake up at 6 o'clock this morning, 10 till 6, and read my Bible. Great. What a sacrifice I made this morning, right? Then he started showing me how blessed they were. How blessed they were as they can, and this is where he took me. So let's just talk about this man, Abidan, son of Gidoni, leader of the tribe of Benjamin, presented his offering. What was his first offering? Do I think that his first offering consisted of these 27 things? No. His first offering may have been a handful of grain. His first offering may have been 1 turtle dove, because that's all he had. It's all he had. And then the Lord blessed him. And the next time it may have been 2. And then God blessed him. And then he got to bring 3. So in order for them to be where they're at to bring the 27, they're wealthy people. But yet God still said, if they could afford it. They may also bring additional offerings if they can afford it. And they must be careful to do whatever they vowed when they set themselves apart. We have to be careful that we do what we vow when we set ourselves apart. And we vow to take care of the one before we ever decide to take care of the multitudes. That's what he spoke to Elizabeth. Don't get so busy building and growing that you forget about the one. And the one may very well be my husband. My husband first, before I get to even minister to these at the table here. And then the ones at the table before I get to minister to the ones that comes in the front door. And then the ones at the front door before I get to go out. And it just started bringing an order back to me. And also the awareness of the blessing of what we're reading. I mean, we are reading of monumental blessings by God and how much he loved them. And yes, it was work. Their sacrifice wasn't waking up 10 minutes before the alarm this morning and getting to read my Bible. I mean, it's 8:23 this morning, from 10 till 6 till 8:23 this morning. That's been my sacrifice. Woe be unto me. There's no condemnation in Christ. I'm just sharing. He gave me such a powerful word. And then we went to Mark, and everything fits. Mm-hmm. Beware of the teachers of religious law, for they like to parade around in flowing robes and receive respectful greetings as they walk in the marketplace. Be careful, Elizabeth, about coming on these videos. Don't make it about you, Elizabeth. Don't you be a showman. Don't be a showman. And how they love the seats of honor in the synagogues and the head tables at the banquets. Yet they shamelessly cheat widows out of their property and then pretend to be pious by making long prayers in public. Because of this, they will be most severely punished. Jesus sat down near the collection box in the temple and watched as the crowds dropped in their money. Many rich people put in large amounts. Then a poor widow came and dropped in 2 small coins. Jesus called his disciples to him and said, I tell you the truth, this poor widow has given more than all the others who are making contributions. For they gave a tiny part of their surplus, but she, poor as she is, has given everything she had to live on. When's the last time you've given everything? Everything. It's one thing to say it. It's another thing to do it. And boy, God just started speaking to me, and he tied these together. You know, here we read about the 27 different things they brought for their sacrifice, and here she dropped in 2 coins. And we read about their sacrifice and what it took them to round them all up and to bring them in, how much time was spent, and the cost. The cost. What did it cost this woman? It cost her everything. Everything. And then a dear, dear friend of mine that lives next door to me, couple of years ago, God told him, don't resent the cost. It's going to cost you something to follow Christ. It's going to cost you something. And if you resent it, it's not a pleasing aroma to the Lord. It's just like dung in his nose. It's going to cost you something. But the reward of his peace, the reward of knowing you live with a purpose, the reward of him, because that's what he gives us. See, back then he gave him a blessing, and every one of us can read that blessing. May the Lord bless you and protect you. May the Lord smile on you and be gracious to you. May the Lord show you his favor and give you his peace. All of us can want that. We read that and go, oh, yes, Lord, yes, Lord. But you know what? I wouldn't trade him in me for that blessing for anything. It's him. He gives us him. Him, when we don't count the cost. See, I don't talk about that very often because I don't live in a place where I count the cost. Every one of our bedrooms is full here in this house. Every day there's a activity, there's life that walks into these doors, that I could look at the chaos if I wanted to count the cost. I could look at the lack of privacy. I mean, I joked around with some of you all when we first moved in that it was like having kids at home again, because I couldn't even go to the bathroom without somebody hollering at me. I mean, we had fun with it. But see, I could choose to look at that instead of looking at him. So I don't talk often about the cost, because the reward is so much greater than the cost. But if you resent the cost, there is a cost. There is a die to self. It's not about my comfort. It's not about my privacy. It's not about my ownership of anything. When I can give my last 2 pennies, I have all of him in me. All of him in me. When's the last time he asked you to give it all? All. See, he's a jealous God. He doesn't want just part of you. He doesn't want just part of anything. He wants us to live and walk in the revelation knowledge that there's not one thing I own. There's not one thing that belongs to Tom and Elizabeth Inman. Not one thing. It's all his. It's all his. We'll walk away tomorrow. When Tom and I first started this journey 8 years ago, we walked down the driveway of a brand new home God had given us. We took hands and we turned around and was driving a Lincoln Navigator. We walked down that driveway. We turned around and we said, Lord, it's all yours. It's not ever been ours. And if you want us to live in a shack, that's where we'll live. And we can be just as happy praising you in a shack. Mm-hmm. And instead of giving us a shack, he's given us a castle. Wow. But it had to be from the heart. It couldn't be like the Pharisees praising from the street corners just to be praising and to be heard. No. In fact, nobody heard us. Nobody heard us. It was he and I, and it was from our heart. It's going to cost you. It's going to cost you. Don't think it's not going to cost you. But see, we don't focus on the cost. We focus on him in us, Christ-centered. Him in us, the hope of glory. Christ in us, the hope of glory. And then we operate from hope. Every minute of every day is hope. And then the Psalms. I can't pass the Psalms today because it all ties in. Listen to this, all you people. Pay attention, everyone in the world. High and low, rich and poor. Listen, for my words are wise and my thoughts are filled with insight. I listen carefully to many proverbs and solve riddles with inspiration from the heart. Why should I fear when trouble comes? Why should I fear when the marriage seems to be falling apart? We don't fear that. Why do we not fear that? Our marriage isn't going to fall apart because that is not God's good and perfect will. And I'm his. I'm his. I know what God will do inside my marriage if I'll just leave it alone. He's done that for us, didn't he, Tom? He did. We reached that point in our marriage when he had to go to the Father and say, Lord, I don't know what to do with her. I don't know what to do with this. But I'll do what you want to do. I know this man did that. And I did it. And I said, Lord, I don't know what to do beyond this. I wouldn't trade what we have now today for anything. Anything. What should I fear when trouble comes, when enemies surround me? They trust in their wealth and they boast of great riches, yet they can't redeem themselves from death, from paying a ransom to God. Redemption comes not so easily, for no one can ever pay enough. See, if you start counting the cost, it'll never be enough. If it starts being a problem because it's a tenth, if that's a problem for you, it'll never be enough. When you move it up to 20% and you say, okay, is that enough, Lord? It's never enough because you're counting the cost. When it's all his, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the bank accounts say. When you've taken each step and you know every penny that's flowing out of that checking account is because he said, don't count the cost. Don't count the cost. For no one can ever pay enough to live forever and never see the grave. See, we never die. Those who are wise must finally die, just like the foolish and senseless, leaving all their wealth behind. The grave is their eternal home where they will stay forever. I'm not staying in no grave. They may name their estates after themselves, but their fame will not last. They will die, just like animals. This is the fate of fools, though they are remembered as being wise. Like sheep, they are led to the grave, where death will be their shepherd. In the morning of the godly will rule over them. Their bodies will rot in the grave, far from the grand estates. But as for me, God will redeem my life. Hallelujah. He will snatch me from the power of the grave. So don't be dismayed when the wicked grow rich and their homes become ever more splendid. For when they die, they take nothing with them. Their wealth will not follow them into the grave. In this life, they consider themselves fortunate and are applauded for their success, but they will die like all before them and never again see the light of day. People who boast of their wealth don't understand. They will die just like animals. It all fits. Today's whole reading just fits together. Proverbs 10:27 and 28. Fear of the Lord lengthens one's life, but the years of the wicked are cut short. The hopes, we talked about that hope, living from hope. The hopes of the godly result in happiness, but the expectations of the wicked come to nothing. Powerful, powerful messages today. Thank y'all for joining. They all wanted to know that.
Good luck, everybody.